Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to be reviewing Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. Yeah. Okay, so this is the second time I'm recording this because the first time I forgot to hit the record button. So, second time's the charm, right? So, what I want to discuss about this book, there's a couple of things, if I remember them. I want to discuss the characters, I want to discuss the world building, the writing, and of course the storyline. Not in that particular order, of course. I'm going to try not to spoil anything in this video. Keyword being try, I'll do my best. Hopefully I won't let anything slip. I'm usually pretty good about not doing that. So, yeah. What I plan to do though is, I'm not sure if I'm going to do it for this one. I might do it for Glass Sword, which I have up there, is go more in depth, possibly chapter by chapter or like a couple of chapters, and discuss some of the interesting things that we might find in each of those chapters, like foreshadowing, character interactions, you know, how each chapter might go forward. I might not do it for this one because I have already finished it and the sequel is already out. I'll more likely do it for books as they come out. For example, I might do it for Ember in the Ashes. I'll possibly do it for Copper Gauntlet. Yeah, I'll probably do it for Copper Gauntlet, and I will be definitely doing it for Lady Midnight because, of course, why not? So, moving on. Let's start. The first thing I want to discuss is the writing. Now, this book is written in third person, present tense, I believe. Don't quote me on that. Yes, third person, present tense. God, I hope I'm right. That's something I've been seeing a lot lately. Not necessarily third person, but using present tense in writing. I'm not sure if it's just a trend or if it's always been happening, but I've definitely been seeing that in books a lot more recently, because I think an Ember in the Ashes is also written in present tense, but it's first person present tense, I believe. I'm not quite sure. I think it's first person anyway. The author, Aveyard, Victoria Aveyard. Please tell me I didn't butcher your name. But, the way she handles it is done really extremely well. The way she writes, the way she forms her sentences and the paragraphs and everything, it flows really, really nicely. There's no points where you actually have to stop and go back and be like, because you didn't really understand what she said. Mostly stopping and going back was because I was so cool, so I go back and I read over the paragraph anyway. Yeah, it flows really, really well. There's no point where you have to like go back and read over because you didn't understand what's going on. There are no points that really pulls you out of the story because the way it was written or the way it was phrased was really awkward and clunky and not done. There are no areas where it doesn't flow. There are no areas where it feels wrong. Everything, it reads really, really nice. World building. I said so much for this earlier and I don't remember half of what I said. I'm so sorry. Okay, so the way this world is set up is basically two, I don't really want to say races, but I guess that's the kind of like the best way to explain it, because there's the reds and the silvers. The reds have red blood, the silvers have silver blood. Pretty clear, pretty obvious. Reds are basically like slaves. They're second class citizens, they're oppressed, yada yada, all that kind of stuff. The silvers are basically like the kings and the queens and the nobles and the lords who are all high up and they have their fancy parties and their super delicious food and all that kind of stuff. The silvers also have powers and abilities and stuff like that. So some of them can control metal, some of them are super strong, some can control fire, some can see the future. They're super OP, to be honest. And basically that makes everything worse because the silvers have these powers that they can use to treat the other people really, really badly. And the reds can't do anything about it because they don't have powers, so they can't fight back. So it's just this never-ending circle of douchiness, basically. the technology in the world is kind of based around that. I mean, there's electricity and stuff like that, but for the Silvers, most of their technology, like planes and I'm not sure boats. I would say boats. I'm not quite sure, but stuff like that is based on using their powers. So if there is like a ship that they needed to power or something, they wouldn't use like an engine. They'd use the people that can control water to make it move, or they'd use the red slaves and have them row the oars and shit like that. But you see where I'm coming from, right? That's the kind of world that was set up here. So the relationship between the Reds and the Silvers, it's not toned down. Like when people deal with like slavery and oppression and stuff, there's a tendency to sugarcoat it. Yeah, let's put it that way. There's a tendency to sugarcoat it. And the way it's handled in this book, it's not straight out in your face with all the things that could happen, but it's not super tame to the point where you don't see the issues that would be going on in that kind of society. So it's done tastefully. Let's put it that way. It's handled really tastefully. That being said, basically everything that happens is based around the central idea of Reds versus Silvers. And that is really, really, I don't want to say cool. Having such a simple yet not simple, it's like, it's a simple idea, but it's so loaded that using that as a base to build your world off of, which I don't know if that is what she started with, the Reds versus Silvers thing, but if it was what she started from, then using that to build everything on top of, like all of the crap that happens on top of that, but it's still fueled by that central idea of Reds versus Silvers. That is amazing, because you have a very focused, that's the word. You have a very focused point of where the conflict is. That's where every single, maybe not every single, but most of the problems in the story are coming from. That idea of Reds versus Silvers. And when you have such a, not a plane, but when you have an idea, when you have a conflict that is at the basis of everything, it makes it so much more real. It makes it so much more believable. That's not the word, but that'll work. It helps to ground the story. You don't have like 1,000,001 conflicts that give 1,000,001 reasons for these different things to happen that somehow all coincidentally have to end up in this one situation. You have this one conflict that is causing all these different situations. But at the end of the day, it comes back down to that one simple idea, Red versus Silver. And that is really, really, really good. Because as readers, it makes it much easier for us to home in on that point. And it makes it a lot easier for character motivations to come into play. And that's the same thing with the Silvers using their abilities as their technology. It grounds the story. It makes it believable. Because if I had telekinetic powers, I would not be getting out of my bed to turn off my light. It'd just be like, like, it's that kind of thing. The way people will use them in everyday situations, not just when there's a big fireball falling from the sky or something, So, that's really, it's really well done. Now, moving on to characters. I don't want to spoil anything, so there's not much I can discuss in terms of characters. So, okay, so our main character is Mare. She's red. She lives basically with the other Reds. And as a main character, she's interesting because she is basically like an everyday girl that's thrown into this horrendous situation. I mean, that can be said for a lot of other books and a lot of other stories and titles and yada yada. But the way she's not presented as absolutely useless. And that's That's really, really, really good because a lot of the times when characters are thrown into different situations, they either spend most of their time complaining or being a baby, or the other extreme, they're a complete and utter badass, and then we don't really have to worry about them because they're a complete and utter badass. Mare is presented in a more realistic way. She does worry about stuff, but at the same time, she can get shit done. So that's a plus. Other characters, I can't and I won't talk about because I feel like everybody besides Mare is kind of a spoiler. So I won't talk about them. I won't talk about them in detail. I'll be very, very vague as I can. Now, there's some of the characters that are not as well developed as others. I mean, that's to be expected. It's one book. It's, I don't know how many words. I'd say approximately 100,000 maybe. That could be an over or underestimation. But there's only so much you can do in one book. So there are some characters that are underdeveloped, and that's understandable. But the ones that are developed in a way that is, it's handled well. It is, I'll say, they're believable characters, but they aren't predictable characters. I think that's the best way to explain it. Now, there are some things that they do, or say, or issues that happen that are slightly predictable, and you kind of go, ugh, because of it. But it's not done badly. They're handled in a way. There's that word again. They're done in a way that it's fresh enough that you want to read it, but it's an idea you've seen before, and there's nothing wrong with that because 90% of the ideas out there have been done before. So to come up with an idea that's completely fresh, it's gotta be pretty out there. So it's not bad. It's not in any shape or form bad. Another thing that I like about the way she handles the characters is that she doesn't tell you who to like and who to dislike. This is the third time I'm saying this. She doesn't tell you who to like or who to dislike. She does not point out the good guys and the bad guys. She does not, in her writing, lead you to believe someone is better than the other person. In fact, it is kind of the opposite. She shows you the good sides and the bad sides of the characters, and she lets you make your own opinions of them, as Mare, the main character, is making her own opinions of them, which is really cool, because especially when you're dealing with a topic like this, where you have two sets of people against one another, there is a tendency, and this can happen subconsciously, when you're actually writing it, there's a tendency to decide one group is better than the other. And there's a tendency to paint one side as the bad one and one side as the good one, but that doesn't necessarily happen. Both sides are shown to have their good people and their bad people. Both sides are shown to have their good things and their bad things. And that is really, really, really well thought out and well handled writing, and story-wise, it is 10 out of 10. Now, in this situation, as I said before, it would be easy to just paint the Silvers as the bad guys, because, I mean, look at what's been going on. It would be extremely simple for them to just say, for her as the author to just say, okay, you're gonna be the bad guys, that's it. But she doesn't do that. The Silver characters are given just as much development and just as much human qualities, believable qualities, as the Red characters are. And yeah, that's spectacular. That is amazing, because as I said before, it'd be extremely simple to just make them the bad guys, and she doesn't do that. So yeah, A++. Now, storyline. I said I was gonna discuss it, but there's not much for me to discuss if I am not spoiling stuff. So, basically, there's a lot of stuff that happens in the plot and the storyline that, how can I say this? There are areas where you feel like you can predict what's gonna happen, There are areas where you totally do not know what the fuck is gonna go on. Like, what the hell is gonna happen now? You really don't know. And then there are areas where you feel like it's gonna happen one way, and then it completely swerves the other direction, and you're just like, pfft. So, yeah, there are a hell of a lot of plot twists in this book. And when you reach the end, yeah, it's just gonna be like a big, yeah, you're just, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's crazy, and it's a ride. Yeah, it's definitely a ride. There are a lot of things that you've seen before. I won't lie, there are things you've seen before. There are tropes and storyline things that you definitely will recognize from some other work you've read at some point in your life, or watched, or played, I don't know. But in every story, it is not the idea, it is not the what happens that makes it interesting or unique. It is the way that you tell it, and the way, the spin that the author or the writer or whatever puts on it. And that's the important part. And she definitely handles it in a very unique and interesting way. And so you don't feel bored reading it. There's no point where you will read it and you'll just kind of be like, I've seen this too many times and I want to put down the book. You might say that, maybe 1 or 2 points, but there are other points that you'll say, I've seen this before, but I've never seen it done like this. And that is what makes a good writer. When you can take something that you've seen 100,000 times and make somebody want to see it again. So yeah, overall, Red Queen is a really, I need to stop using the word really. So overall, Red Queen, I can see why it's a bestseller. And the writing is top notch, the characters are well handled, the storyline is really good, and the world is one that I really want to see more of. Like, it makes you think about, if this is going on in this one country, what's happening in the other countries within this same world, and it really makes you want to see more of it. So that's it for this video, I suppose, as long as it hasn't crashed for the 4th time. So I should start the analysis on this soon. I'm not sure if it will be up by the time I finish this video. I don't know when any of these videos are going to be up, so it might have been up already. I mean, if you came here from there, then sup. Cool. Now, so, yeah. I guess I'll see you guys later. Bye.